Hey Brian, how you doing? Long time no see. I see that you're living in Charleston, South Carolina. That's awesome. I love Charleston. I was just down there a few weeks ago for a buddy's bachelor party and loved it. Welcome to Chicago. This is where I live. I just wanted to kind of get on here just because, as I kind of mentioned in my previous post, it's very easy, I think, to kind of misinterpret the way that we mean things and kind of what we're saying on Facebook. So I just kind of wanted to respond in this way, see if this works. But yeah, let me brace yourself, I guess, for my hopefully not too lengthy response. Um, First thing I want to respond to, obviously, I will just start at the top. Number one, it says you will tolerate love and only love. That's not really what I meant. What I meant, as I said, I have full tolerance for love. And what I mean is not that I will only tolerate love, but rather that I will tolerate all love, any types of love. I think if love is coming from the place where it's actual love, which I think love is filled with altruism and empathy, then I think true love, yeah, I think is any kind of that. I think, yeah, I'll accept, but not that I'll only tolerate love. Um, all human beings, without exception, desire to be loved and accepted. I believe this to be inherent in us, that is what we want. Definitely to be loved. I mean, to be accepted. I think that's kind of tied into love because some people might not want to be accepted into certain cultures or certain, I don't know, I guess social settings. But I think everyone does want to be loved, and I guess I can kind of almost group those two together. Without exception, that's tough. I think we've identified that there is such a thing as a sociopath, and I think part of the issue with that, and I don't know too much about it, but I'm trying to learn a little bit. That we have identified that there is something in their brain that is preventing them from truly like experiencing empathy, and so I think that perhaps they could fall on the outlines of this. Fortunately, it's a smaller percentage of our population, and I wish I had more answers on how to deal with that. But I think that it's a really small aspect. I'm not sure Hitler's next. I'm not sure if he was considered a sociopath or not. I mean, it would seem like it because the heinous things that he did, but I'm not sure. Hitler is a child of God because every human without exception is. I'm not really like of that belief, so. I was assuming that everyone born. Yeah, we agree. Okay, B. Everyone born is because if God is the creator within that storyline, then I would say yeah that he'd have to be a child of God if God created everything, right? As far as the heaven aspect of that goes, I'm not really that interested in that, and also don't really know. But I think we can agree that Hitler is a child of God because everyone, without exception, is a child of God because he made them. The biblical God you claim does not exist. Yeah, I think that if God created everything, then I think he would agree that Hitler is a child of God. I don't see where the contradiction. I don't totally understand what you're saying there, I guess. I think, yeah. When I say biblical God, I've heard God used in a lot of different ways, and not every single person I talk to thinks of God in the same way. And when I say biblical God, I'm alluding exactly to that, the God that is kind of present in the Bible. I know a lot of people that believe in God or whatever, say like there is only the God or whatever. But I've heard many different people say this, and they're talking about different gods, so to speak. So I just wanted to clarify and make sure that that was clear that I'm not talking about any kind of God that I might believe in or other people like Allah or whatever other gods are manifest in some of our world's religions. So I just wanted to talk about the God from the Bible, which I have the most experience with because as you know, I grew up in the same faith that you did. Um, yeah, I was assuming that you were a follower of Jesus. I guess just because I guess I've kind of seen that. I just wanted to kind of make sure in my comment that you indeed follow Jesus. I didn't want to put that on you if you don't. Um, but as far as because he said what he said he was, so yeah, me as far as being, I never didn't claim to be a follower of Jesus on here. I think that there's so much in what Jesus says that I actually model my life after, and I think is so beautiful and is very consistent with a lot of the other, um, I guess, spiritual leaders, if you will, leaders of men that they share very similar views, and so I found those to be very fulfilling and practically used. Some of the quotes that I gave, for instance, I find those to be extremely practical, and not only practical but very successful when put into practice in our day-to-day lives. And so I'm not necessarily a follower of Jesus in the extent that I believe him to be God, or is he God? Is he God's son? Are they the same? The whole Trinity mystery of like, how does that actually work? It's not really that important to me, to be honest. If you put yourself in my position where I don't believe in heaven, and I don't really believe in like the biblical God, not a, I it really doesn't matter to me too much who is what within there. When I look at Jesus' story, as I mentioned earlier, there's so many beautiful things and so many beautiful messages that it's impossible for me to want to separate from those. And so I bring up him as a great example in that. As far as him being a liar about it, I mean, I don't know who wrote the stories about Jesus. I mean, they have, the apostles, and I'm sorry, the gospel. That's what I meant to say. The apostles were writing the gospels, I believe. They wrote these stories down, and so, I'm not exactly sure what was actually said. I don't think any of us truly know as much as we want to believe we do, or we can only believe what has been written down, and I think that's probably what a lot of people's issue is with the current Christian church is having to interpret these writings. And so as far as him being a liar and all that stuff, I don't know. I guess that part of the story isn't really that important to me. I know that sounds kind of crazy, I guess, but because you said turn the other cheek, all people without exception, or to overlook injustices and great crimes like Jim. No, yeah, that's not ever what I said. As far as turning the other cheek without exception, or to overlook injustices. No, I didn't want to overlook any injustice or great crime. What I've kind of been saying was to look at them and understand what they are and why they're happening, and therefore try to come up with a solution as to how to prevent them from happening further. I certainly don't want to perpetuate any sort of violence. I'm a completely passive person. Don't want to no violence. That's kind of the way I see about it. I often think about if someone's attacking my brother, for instance, what am I going to do? How am I going to rip them off? And it's a constant like practice for myself to say, um, I'm going to be good to these people because we really are all the same. Of course, I have a passionate love for my brother because we've been around each other. But there's a very popular, I guess, kind of Buddhist, saying that I don't know if it's a Buddhist saying, but kind of within that realm, like, we can only sadness, comes from not accepting that everything will change. The only constant is change. And so we hook ourselves to so many things, and that creates much unhappiness because we'll lose everything that we have eventually, and everyone will lose us eventually. So to be attached to anything really, eventually could to bring some sort of sadness unless you're able to detach, your feelings from that, which is a whole other practice, which I'd be thrilled to speak about because it's become a very comforting way for me to live, and very like truly, and um, I guess I don't know what I just said there. But.
I like to see.
Hey man, how you doing? This is my little brother Shane, by the way. Who I was talking about if someone was fighting him, how could I possibly let that happen? And I wouldn't want that to keep happening because I don't want to overlook injustices. What I want to do is to understand why they're happening and recognize that they are in fact a creation of our world. We all create it. Every time we frown at someone, every time we flip someone off in the car, which we see so regularly, I think it's kind of sending that ripple of negativity through the universe. And what I want to do is do the exact opposite. Every smile that I give, every person that I wave at and treat like a human being on a regular basis is certainly sending positive vibes to the world. And there's no doubt about that in my mind. And that's really what I'm all about. So as far as me interpreting Romans 12:9 to mean hate the sin but not the sinner, absolutely, that's absolutely my interpretation. There pretty much is no basis of that. That's kind of when I read it, I interpreted it, and that's kind of what it meant to me. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I have no basis for this claim other than that's just kind of how I interpreted it. Yeah, I don't believe any person is evil, not even Hitler. As we spoke earlier, as I mentioned earlier, maybe sociopaths have a different set of circumstances than we do, but I don't think anyone's inherently evil. I don't think anyone's born wanting to be evil or wanting to cause evil things to happen, whatever we're defining evil as. I think we're pretty much on the same page with that. If we need to go further into that, we can obviously break that down at a different point. But no, I don't. Yeah, I don't believe any person is evil. I think that people do things, and like to clarify, make people suffer for the sake of their own survival. The understanding that I have of Hitler is that his people were going through a depression, and he was trying to lead them out of it. And gosh, man, did he take some weird turns in there and completely, awful. And I don't know, I'm not 100% sure why. I haven't really studied Hitler in great detail, but I think, yeah, even someone like Hitler, we can look at the situation as being a product of their surroundings. Perhaps if Hitler grew up in a nice home in the South, as we did, and with a loving family, then certainly those things that happened wouldn't have occurred. And so I think especially you can see this manifest in our current society here in the U.S. as a capitalist society where it's written in capitalism. We put in capital above people. That's why capitalism, I think is so awful, is because we're taking people out of the equation and putting them as secondary. And so I think when you create a society around that idea that people are secondary to creating capital, then of course we're going to marginalize people. We're going to allow people to live in circumstances that are far beyond ideal. Someone just commented on your thing, and so I think that our society that we've created has created this need to be dog eat dog and to be competitive with one another. We now live in a world that can provide bountifully to everyone on it, but because of the social systems that we have in place, we think that that's impossible. Um, I know I kind of went off on a little tangent there, so I'll try to get back on here. Um, yeah, they're simply good people. I'm not even someone that uses the word good and bad, to be completely honest, because they're totally subject to whatever your personal moral, compass is. So good and bad, it depends on so much subjectivity that I don't even use those words in my daily life. My girlfriend and I have completely taken them out of the way that we explain things. But I think people, yeah, inherently, I don't think inherently people are evil and are looking to do evil things. I think it kind of snowballs out of many things happening. If you look at like our gang culture here in Chicago, it's I don't think anyone wants to be in a gang. It's just I talked to someone the other day that said, you know, I can't believe I didn't end up in a game. I got lucky. That's the only reason. And, incredibly nice guy that I met, friendly guy, and he said he just got lucky from not being in a gang. I don't think people want to be in these situations, but are trying to survive and be accepted and loved in any way they can. And sometimes they reach for things that will probably do the opposite. But that's just really unfortunate. But I don't think it's because they set out to be evil, or that they are inherently evil and flawed. Um, yeah, if every individual does not take responsibility for our part in the world, then blame, hatred, marginalization, and social divides will continue, and they will destroy the world. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Let me see. Yeah, I think it's everyone's responsibility. We have such a fun time in our culture, saying they, or the government, the state, the liberals, the conservatives, the Christians, the atheists. We like to put it on everyone else, but really, I think, like I quoted Gandhi earlier, be the change you want to see in the world. And I think absolutely we all need to make personal decisions to interact in this world in a positive, friendly way to each other and love each other so fully, so that so these things like hate and evil, like, they'll dissipate. I think automatically, um, because there's really no need for them, especially in our world with modern technological advancements. We can feed the entire world, easily with what we're doing. And if we were to be altruistic and loving to everyone, then there really wouldn't be a reason for hate that I can see. Perhaps you could bring one up to me, and then we could discuss it. But yeah, absolutely. I think that we all need to take responsibility for the energy and that we're putting out into the world, because often, like I said, you just see that ripple effect of someone saying something mean, something inconsequential to someone, and then that just kind of carrying on through the day. I've seen it happen both ways, on a regular basis. So I think absolutely that we should take responsibility for that. Therefore, the abstract mental moral construct we call evil, not evil people, they don't exist, will continue undeterred if we do not stop it. Therefore, we must survive by putting an end to another person's means of survival. Yeah, absolutely. So let's say that we take Hitler and bin Laden's means of survival. Let's call it they want to kill Americans. Yeah, we think we should definitely put an end to their desire to want to kill Americans, or in Hitler's case, kill the Jews. And I think the way that we put an end to that is to understand what it is that they have a problem with, what it is that they're trying to survive from, what it is that is kind of causing of this behavior, understand it, and then do our best to mitigate, those causes so that they don't have to feel like they need to do such violent things and in order to survive or to be happy or to, I don't know how many people blame it on, Islam. I actually heard an Islamic scholar explaining the other day that, like for instance, what ISIS is doing right now is completely incongruent with the Islamic beliefs. So I think a lot of the terrorism, people think that that's Islam doing that. According to that scholar, I haven't personally studied it. He says it's completely inconsistent. So I think we need to figure out whatever it is that's causing these people to do these things. We certainly need to put an end to those. That doesn't mean put an end to these people. I don't throw anybody away. I make it a personal mission of mine to do exactly what Christ said in that passage, is to love my enemies. And really, I don't have any enemies because, I think we're all one. I think we're all the same. And I think, to think otherwise can be an error because, again, if we can make others, we can marginalize others. If we're all the same, no people really want to marginalize themselves, even though unfortunately it does happen because we have a destructive society. A good person may spend their life doing nothing but evil actions as long as they view the acts as necessary. They are not an evil person. Not what I'm saying there. Again, I don't think anyone's inherently evil. I think people can do, quote unquote, whatever we're saying are evil things. Genocide, any kind of marginalization of any social group or culture. I think is that's against what I would like to see happen. I think if a person spends their whole life doing evil actions, again, we need to figure out why they're doing these evil actions. And I think very easily people can be pulled from these. As someone like yourself that's a study of God and the Scripture and his ability to change people, or the forgiveness and repentance and that. I mean, I believe in that in the same kind of way, different kind of way, I guess. I believe in that same kind of idea that everyone can be different at any moment. They can choose a different path, a different way. And so, that's why I don't want to throw anybody away, but maybe, look at what's hurting them. And, I think only people that are hurting other people. Not everyone that's hurting is hurting other people, but I think people that are hurting other people typically are hurting in some sort of way, and that's why they have to do that. And so we got to delve in and figure out why they're hurting and see if we play a part in that in any kind of way. For instance, perpetuating capitalism, I think, is hurting so many people. All the poor people that you meet, or people that feel like insignificant. A lot of times, just capitalism in general creates that. You can't have capitalism without having a stratification in what people have. Super stratification, and a lot of people, unfortunately, don't have the means to survive and to feel loved. And many people have stuff that doesn't make them happy and whatever. That's a different tangent. So yeah, overall, I don't think your bullet point list really accurately kind of went through what I was saying. Yeah, basically my point is like coming back to the top. What you're saying, like to love someone implies a hatred. I think that you can have love without hating. I think we need to be tolerant of the assailant. So we can be tolerant so that we can understand them, and then when we understand them, we can even be more tolerant of their behavior and maybe hope to change it and to improve their situation so that our situation improved. Because it's all connected, right? So if, for instance, the assailant was perfectly happy with their situation, then what point would they have to assail like I don't to be violent towards your beloved wife, for instance. So I think you stop it at the root, and it kind of roots it all out, so to speak. So anyway, I'm gonna go back and review this video. Hopefully, it makes sense. Sorry for any miscommunication that we might have had, but I just want to kind of clarify this and say that I'm all about love and understanding what's happening out there so that we can improve what's happening out there, because I think we can do it, and I think it does take that very strong effort from each one of us to kind of break away from our social conditioning that we've been getting since we were little kids, because I really do believe capitalism is inherently harmful not only to us as humans but to the planet. I don't even think that's my belief. That's just a fact. The capitalism, especially the way that we practice it, is completely detrimental to everything, basically, except for some people getting rich and other people remaining poor. That will be perpetuated by capitalism. But much love, Brian. I hope you get this, and I hope it finds you well, and that that makes sense. And I look forward from here to you, man. Take it easy.